Every day here at Paignton Zoo, our dedicated staff do a multitude of jobs that our visitors never see. This is your chance to find out how the zoo really runs. This is Zoo Insider.
2022 has already been quite a historic year for Paignton Zoo. Why, you ask? Well, quite simply because we chose to close our doors for 2 weeks in January. With the exception of extreme weather and COVID lockdowns, Paignton Zoo has been open 364 days a year since the mid-1940s. So why did we close for 2 weeks? Well, the short answer is maintenance. The long answer involves increasing wet weather, a high level of ageing wooden structures, and the badly timed failing of one in particular, the main entrance. Today's episode of Zoo Insider will let you see just some of what we got up to behind closed gates, and also give you a little sneaky peek at what development we have planned in the next few months. Plans for the closure all start here. Our weekly Heads of Department meeting, or HODs. They are the nerve centre, representing all the different teams across the zoo and making the important plans and decisions. The primary reason for the closure was to allow work to start on creating a new entrance after a routine inspection of the main boardwalk showed it was becoming unsafe. However, the opportunity to do those little jobs that always get pushed aside when we have visitors on site was an exciting thought for many other departments too. There's a lot of painting, clearing out of long forgotten cupboards, replacing signage, fixing, cleaning and sprucing up. Our catering team even got to go on a day out to visit some of our suppliers and see how the products we use are made, including our own Zoo Arabica blend of coffee. For a lot of the animal teams though, it was business as usual. The needs of our animals don't change whether we have visitors around or not. For the bird department, however, things were about to get hectic. With the removal of the main boardwalk, our Brookside aviary to the right of the entrance building was now temporarily the main route in and out of the zoo, and this needed opening up to make it more accessible for all our visitors. First job, catch up all the birds. Now this is no easy task in an aviary that's as tall as a house, but with the birds all safely moved to new aviaries, the maintenance team could move in and start the work to open up a new wider entrance. The finished product was a real team effort from several departments. Whilst maintenance did the initial construction and the pathway, our botanics team planted up the borders either side, and our creative team added the beautiful artwork, leaving a finished product that many people are justifiably proud of. That left us with the main task, to remove the old unsafe boardwalk. Here's our Head of Campaigns and Programmes, Steve, to tell us a bit more about why the decision was made to take the whole boardwalk down rather than just replacing the unsafe sections.
So we're stood down on the site of the former train track here at the zoo. One of the things that it's, I guess, really important to point out is the small stream, the brook, that is running alongside us. If you'd been on the Jungle Express previously, no doubt you'll have seen some aspects of this view before, but obviously if you weren't on the train, this is an area that you may never have encountered. The stream actually flows into the zoo from the hills up above Paignton. It flows all the way through our sites. It feeds our lake, the moats around the Ape Islands, and it's controlled by a series of sluice gates before it runs out through Clennon Gorge, our nature reserve, and out to sea at Goodwinton Beach. If you live in Devon, you probably won't have escaped over the last few years. We are getting increasingly wetter weather, heavy rain events, wetter winters, and actually what we've found over the last decade or so is an ever-increasing flood risk from the stream. Our whole ethos here at the zoo revolves around us living with nature and sharing our space with nature. So a lot of our decisions have been determined by how we can make sure this vital wildlife habitat continues to persist in our zoo, and how we can live and work alongside it in a way that still allows visitors to come in and to enjoy our site. And those kind of decisions have underpinned quite a few of our developments for this coming year. Many of you may have been aware that the Jungle Express, our popular miniature railway, did depart for the final time at the start of this year. And the key reason for that actually was because we need to make sure people can come into our site. The area where we're stood now, because it is now prone to an increased flood risk, it's also prone to subsidence. And actually the first of the big redevelopments that we're doing here at the zoo is to install a new entrance pathway and lakeside walk to allow people to come and see everything that goes on in this previously unexplored area of the zoo.
Thanks, Steve. Before we could start taking anything down though, it was time for the bird team to be busy again. Flamingo catching this time, to make sure all were in tip-top condition before work began right next to their enclosure. As contractors took down the boardwalk section by section, anything that we could reuse elsewhere on site was separated out, with the rest being loaded into a large skip on the top car park ready to head for recycling. For those very familiar with the zoo site, it feels quite disorientating standing at the entrance now and working out where everything used to be. So, with all that done, now we look to the future. Plans for the new entrance path and lakeside walkway are in final development, and work will be starting very soon to get these ready to open later in the spring. The new path will take the route of the old train tracks alongside the lake, giving you great views of cranes, lar gibbons, and an unrivalled view of our big cat paddocks. We're certainly excited to open up this area for our visitors. Steve, are you excited?
I'm very excited. More?
A little bit more, please, Steve, yes.
So this is a really exciting development for us here at the zoo. As well as being a zoo full of exotic animals from around the world, this is also a reserve for native species. So the fact that we're going to be able to show people this really important wildlife habitat is something that really aligns very closely to our mission and our belief.
And other than our amazing exotic residents, what else will visitors be able to see on the new pathway?
So we're really hopeful that visitors, when they use the lakeside path, will be able to see much more of the wildlife that calls Paignton Zoo home. Some of this will be really obvious: butterflies, dragonflies, caddisflies, etc. Although at night time we know, for example, otters frequent our site. We've got badgers, a whole host of bat species, and particularly importantly, actually, we've also got critically endangered European eels. And as you can imagine, the brook that runs through the site is vitally important for them as they complete their migration to the sea.
Join us again soon for more behind-the-scenes peeks on Zoo Insider.